Welcome to the SVG-TV evening news for Friday, March 5th. I am Khalil Kato with the details. 12 more patients from the Mental Health and Rehabilitation Center, MHRC, have tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the number of positive cases affiliated with the facility to 116. In a news release issued last evening, the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the 12 new cases were reported from 221 samples received and processed on Wednesday. NEMO said all of these cases are patients from the MHRC and were detected through ongoing contact tracing and screening. The positivity rate for Wednesday is 5.4%. 17 persons were cleared, bringing the total number of recoveries to 971. 679 cases remain active and 8 persons with COVID-19 have died. 1,658 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. The public is urged to use a mask, sanitize, physically distance, and get vaccinated to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in the country. In light of the COVID-19 outbreak at the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves on radio today said all patients except 6, 2 adult males and 4 females have been vaccinated.
I want to say that insofar as the vaccinations are going, let me stay with the campsite at the moment. There are 78 males and 25 females, 103 at that site there, and they're upstairs. It's supposed to be 79, but from time to time you may get somebody who gets away. No, they're looking for that person. There's security there. Guardsman, I've been advised, is there. The place is fenced. At the Mental Health Rehab Center out at Glen, you have 104 males there and 30 females. At that center, that is to say those who have been tested positive, only 2 have not been vaccinated because younger patients, and they say they weren't taking the vaccine. And 30 females, well, 4 of them are new ones there, so they didn't get vaccinated yet.
The Prime Minister Gonsalves also refuted the claims and criticisms that were leveled against the management of the institution earlier this week by the Public Service Union. He thanked the management and staff of the facility for their work, adding that based on internal investigations, the claims made by the PSU are laced with misinterpretations and falsehoods.
This morning, I spoke to all the relevant authorities. And I suspected that when I read the reports first, that they were laced with falsehoods and misrepresentation and a heavy dose possibly of political mischief. All of that, what I suspected from the reports that I was reading about this mountain of criticisms. My suspicions have been confirmed. And I want to, first of all, thank the leadership of the Mental Health Rehab Center, the staff there, the nurses, other supporting staff, for what they have done thus far.
The PM also sought to clarify a number of accusations leveled against the institution, including 12-hour shifts that nurses were allegedly working, and the lack of mattresses at the temporary facility at the Glad Tidings campsite, which is housing the COVID-19 patients.
Now, first of all, I can say emphatically the information that it is not true that the staff are working 2 shifts, 12 hours each. They've been on 3 shifts, 7 to 1, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., and 7 in the night to 7 in the morning. So that's 3 shifts rather than 2 shifts in the day period. They have 27 staff. They're 5 to 7 on each shift, and less, of course, on the night shift. There were no 2 persons sleeping in the same bed. What is reported to me that upstairs by the platform, they had put, when 3 persons had come in later, they had put 3 mattresses on the platform for persons who came later. And during the course of the night, 2 persons, 2 of the patients, decided to leave their bed and go on the floor.
At present, there are 78 males and 38 female patients of the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center with COVID-19 at the Glad Tidings campsite, with the uninfected patients, 103 males and 30 females, remaining at the Glen Center. The national COVID-19 vaccination drive will continue this weekend at the Victoria Park and in several identified communities, including Beckway, Georgetown, Bookament, and Stubbs. The vaccines will also be made available at all health centers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On radio today, Health Promotions Officer Shanika John said the response of persons showing up to be vaccinated has been overwhelming, and thus far, no one has reported any unusual or allergic reaction to the vaccines. John noted that every Thursday, the health authorities here have to give a report on persons' responses to the administered vaccines to the World Health Organization.
The vaccine is an internal way of alerting your system that this is how we're going to fight the virus in the event that you get, in the event that you contract the virus, the COVID-19 virus. And this is what the vaccine does. It reduces your risk of hospitalization due to complications with it, and even death. So you get your vaccine and we ask you to wait for 15-20 minutes. And so in that waiting period, we're monitoring you. We're monitoring if you have any reaction, if you have any anything that is outside of the norm.
Have you heard any
no.
About?
We have to report weekly, every Thursday. And so far we've not heard or got any report that is within the categories for reporting to WHO. I mean, the UK has administered over 15 million vaccines and they have not either reported that there are any severe reactions to the AstraZeneca vaccine.
The Health Promotions Officer noted that SVG is one of the few countries that have made the COVID-19 vaccines accessible to all nationals and not only frontline workers.
Vincent and the Grenadines, while we may take the time to think about get the vaccine, don't get it now, maybe get it later, I'll need some more time to think about it. Outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it's a mad rush. And if you go outside of the regional market, it's even worse, where persons are interested in getting vaccinated, but they're not allowed to be vaccinated because they're not in this particular phase. And so we recognize that there is an urgency from countries, bigger countries, to get their population vaccinated. And so we want persons to take advantage of the opportunity while it is available now. And as the Prime Minister would have said, we're putting measures in place to ensure that we still have access to vaccines on an ongoing basis, but we're also mindful of the situation that exists outside.
John is asking that persons make an informed decision to take the vaccines and also think of the role they can play in slowing the spread of the virus, which is from which 8 persons in SVG have died.
Have other persons who may influence you, and I know we all grew up our parents telling us about peer pressure and don't lean in and so forth. Pause for a second and reflect on you as an individual. Do you have a pre-existing condition? Do you live with someone who have a pre-existing condition? Do you want to slow the transmission of the virus from you to that person? Do you want to decrease your chances of hospitalization and death caused by COVID-19? And if your answer to all of that is yes, get the COVID-19 vaccine. And encourage them. Maybe they're waiting on you to encourage them.
On Monday, SVG received 40,000 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines from India, from which 5,000 doses were donated to Grenada. The Ministry of Health's target is to have 70% of the Vincentian population vaccinated to ensure population immunity. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has announced that customers of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Electricity Services Limited, VINLEC, and the Central Water and Sewerage Authority, CWSA, will benefit from a significant moratorium period. Speaking on radio today, the Prime Minister said that the government has been holding discussions with the service providers, which have agreed to the moratorium and to offer discounts where applicable. The decision comes amidst the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic that continues to affect the earning capacity of Vincentian households.
We're working out with VINLEC and the Water Authority for us to get moratorium for the users of electricity, the customers, and of water, to have a significant period for moratorium so we don't have the disconnections, and that in particular cases we give the discount.
The pending moratorium is a follow-up to one offered in March 2020, at which time customers whose accounts had not been in arrears for more than 2 months were not disconnected for a period of 3 months, and debts amounted during that time were agreed to be paid on an incremental basis over 2 years. Additionally, customers who had been in arrears and were subsequently disconnected were not required to pay the reconnection fee if they paid their outstanding balance over the 3-month-long moratorium which was offered. With the pending moratorium, the question is now, how long will it last and whether it will be under the same terms. Auction of furniture and other items is ongoing at the Bookament Bay Resort, and monies raised will be given to the former workers who never received their severance pay. This was revealed on radio last evening by Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez. He said that government thought it would be best to provide the workers with some form of financial support, even though it was not the government who owed them.
Their cause of action is not against the government, because the government was not running the resort. It is against the company that hired them, and unfortunately that company doesn't have any assets that are readily available. So those former workers have been out of pocket for quite some time. We have taken the decision that whatever money that we collect from the sale of the auction of those items, we should try to pass on as much of it as possible to those Bookament workers. But you will get a little something, and that little something will help in this time, and that little something will not in any way prejudice whatever legal rights you have against the company that owes you the money. But we believe that it will be of assistance.
The finance minister said that he is still not sure how much money will be collected, noting that businesses are not allowed to participate in the auction.
But there were a lot of things there on the property. Some beds, tables, chairs, mirrors, dishes, a host of things. And we decided not to simply pass them on to Sandals. We decided not to sell them off to large companies, but we tried to have an auction where we could sell them to people, regular people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who might be interested in buying these items. The auction is going quite well. I don't have the final numbers yet because the auction is not complete.
Providing an update on the Sandals acquisition of the resort, the finance minister said that work should commence in another 2 or 3 months' time. He also noted that investments on the resort have increased by another $20 million.
There's some corporate changes in Sandals when the head of the company, Butch Stewart, passed away. So they had some delays there as they made new arrangements. But I spoke to the Sandals. I spoke to Adam Stewart last week. He's the executive. He's the CEO of Sandals. He's very, very excited about the hotel, the Beaches Resort that they're going to build in St. Vincent. He's coming to see us sometime in the next couple of weeks to present his final designs on the hotel. He tells me that it's going to cost now $120 million US, which is, it's already gone up $20 million over the original plan. Originally it was going to be $100 million US hotel. Now it's $120 million. Some really unique features, and we're excited to get that hotel going because we expect that they will hire about between 500 and 700 people this year.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is among 3 Caribbean countries who stand to benefit from a food and nutrition security project administered by the University of the West Indies and the University of Technology, with funding from the International Development Research Centre of Canada. The other 2 Caribbean countries where the project is being implemented are St. Kitts and Nevis and Jamaica. In SVG, grants of $7,000 US have been awarded to several groups, including the Greg's Production and Marketing Association, Women in Agriculture and Rural Development, and the Mesopotamia Poultry and Small Ruminant Producers Association. The small grants will encourage and promote healthy diets and dietary diversity and are designed to achieve three main outcomes, including sustaining livelihoods of persons in the beneficiary groups. Speaking at the handing over ceremony of the grants, coordinator of the FAO's Emergency Center for Transboundary Animal Disease, ECTAD, Jethro Green, commended the UWI and the International Development Research Center of Canada for implementing the project, which he says demonstrates the viability of small farming.
IDRC and UWI must be commended for making this effort to help small farmers. It fit right into the ideological approach of ECTAD, something we have been practicing and promoting over the last 15 years, clustering small farmers of like minds for business success. Targeting and setting up small farmers production and marketing cluster is the only way we see that we can make small farmers into big farmers. Sometimes you go to international conference and people tell the small farmers are not economical. But what we prove is that if you take 10 small farmers with 1 acre of land and they work together in a collective with like mind, they have the same mind, they coordinate together, they cooperate together, and they work together honestly, the output from those 10 farmers together is 3 times that.
To achieve the outcomes of the project, Green said the groups must agree to implement as a priority training, record keeping, restocking supplies, replanting, and establish an investment fund from regular contributions made by group members.
We have had good assistance from CARDI, the Caribbean Agriculture Research Development Unit, and the Ministry of Agriculture in supporting and training the GREG, the core group in GREGs that are doing the marketing. In fact, special thanks must be given to Greg Linton of CARDI and Mr. Delplesh from the Plant Quarantine Unit for going out, taking time out extra to spend time to make sure that we have all the marketing facilities right, the packing right, the treatment right, etc. All this is adding up to something that is not only helping people in the windward area, but throughout the country, that we are seeing that we are now the largest, the group now is controlling the largest marketing cluster for dasheen anywhere in the country, and we are sending out some of the largest shipments that has ever gone from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Chief Agricultural Officer Renato Gums thanked the implementing and funding agencies for bringing the project to SVG.
The program of food and nutrition security is always one of paramount importance. As a small island of ours, we always tend to believe that we do not have the capacity to actually feed ourselves, but we do. One of the things we have to focus on, and which this program is highlighting, is working together as a unit. We have a history of cooperatives and groups in this country that they don't tend to survive very long. And this is one of the issues I hope this program would address. One of the problems is that we find ourselves, we get a program today, we have it, next 5 years down the road, the same program comes back because we did not sustain it to build on what was already started. And when funding agencies like these give you money, we have to ensure that we are successful.
Meanwhile, during the handing over ceremony of the grants, the presidents of the 3 groups, the Women in Agriculture and Rural Development, the Greg's Production and Marketing Association, and the Mesopotamia Poultry and Small Ruminant Producers Association, spoke about their groups and their work in agricultural production.
And have been marketing cooperation for ECTAD dasheen program for years. This support is helping us since Greg's is the major dasheen producing area of SVG. This grant is targeted to help improve and increase our production of dasheen, of which the organization ECTAD has marketed in France and UK for the last 10 years.
Of women. And from there we start doing various things. But finally we majored in vegetable production. We have already set member total of 26 members, and 2 supporting members which are males. You know, the women can do it many times. It depends on what you want them to do. So then we started to do seeding productions and move on to vegetable seeding production. Then we move on to other areas.
We are ready to go. We are getting things ready and in place so that we could get our structures like pens and so, and the goats, sheep, and poultry for those who choose whatever area they are hoping to do.
Chief Agricultural Officer Renato Gums commended the beneficiaries of the International Development Research Centre of Canada small grants, noting that they will be the signal to determine whether or not the project is successful.
No, you will, as an institution, the Ministry of Agriculture have to provide this support. And see, Dr. Tony is leading in this regard. Any support needed from the ministry, we are here to provide that support. As I always say, my door is always open to everyone. You can come to me at any time, you can call me at any time if you need assistance that you think you're not getting. But you have to ensure the success of the program.
In-country supervision and oversight of the project here in SVG will be provided to the groups by Dr. Natalie Toney of the Animal Health and Production Division in the Ministry of Agriculture and Jethro Green, coordinator of ECTAD. Program coordinator for the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, Julian Pollard, says that there is stigma attached to locally made items, which he said they're hoping to change. Pollard, who also coordinates the training for art and craft locally with the National Cultural Foundation, the NCF, said the items produced locally are superior in quality than some of the items imported, and a greater appreciation must be shown for the work of local craftsmen and women.
For years and years and years, that once it's done by local people is inferior. And we need to, I think it has to do with the communities too, because if we pack our craft, if people were buying the craft as such, but we would tend to look at it as definitely, because it is done locally, we don't like it. Yet still we would buy items that are made in China that are plastic. And you know, those are definitely inferior because, you know, they're mass produced.
Pollard said he has encouraged local craftsmen and women to be creative and make items that are unique to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This, he said, is one way of making them competitive when marketing their products locally and internationally.
It was disappointing the other day at a workshop, and we gave to some Colombians cups that said St. Vincent. But when you turn it over, there's a little made in China mark, you know. And so like, even the Colombians were like very disappointed because people want to see and get a feeling that they got something from us, that they're learning something from us. But if we are just peddling items that are made somewhere else, you know, and so it really requires a rebranding. And I think the rebranding has to do a lot with heritage. You know, this is the month for heritage, and to me the Garifuna story is very important, but we don't sell it. The people in Belize, Nicaragua, Honduras, the black Garifuna people are there, and they look at St. Vincent as their homeland.